Hey everybody, Coach Dan here from the Run Experience with another interview on the future of trail running. Not long ago, we had a great conversation with Jean Fortier about Quebec Mega Trail and the World Trail Majors and how that sort of as a counterpoint to the UTMB World Series is an emergent thing in the future of trail running. But when I think about the future of trail running, this person is who I actually think about. Brody Chisholm is with us, coming off an incredible 12th place finish at the Cocodona 250-mile race. I am so excited to talk to you today. Thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So you caught my attention while I followed along with the race. And so I love these big events. And like a lot of us, I'm following along the live stream and listening to the live commentary. And I thought there was a mistake early in the race when they talked about this 17-year-old who was moving well in the first few miles of the race. And I thought, God, a 17-year-old signing up for a 250-mile mountain race. That dude's got some courage and some grit. And so then I did a little research on the internet, and that led to this conversation today. But spoilers, you finished 12th.
Yeah. Yeah, 12th place. It was a pretty, I don't know, surreal feeling. Like I knew that I was gonna do well and I knew that I could do well and I had certain target goals for time and stuff. But I had looked at the field and like saw how stacked it was. And I was like, I don't have no idea where I'm gonna finish like place wise. So I just went out there, did my best and turned out in 12th place.
Well, so hold on now. You're 17 years old. You've never run anywhere near this distance in a race before. What was your longest day running before this?
So my longest day was probably 38 miles. I did the Eldon Crest 38 last year. So
Yeah,
that's right where Cocodona is, goes up and over Eldon to the finish line.
yeah,
And so
sure.
that was my longest race or run, really.
Yeah. Now, that does sort of hide the lead, which is that you are a very accomplished through hiker.
Right.
Tell us a little bit more about, so this is a running channel. Some people watch this video aren't going to know anything about through hiking. Tell us a little bit about what it means to be like a through hiker at your level.
So, well, through hiking is just starting at a certain point and hiking through. So for me, that started with the Appalachian Trail, starting in Georgia, and I hiked through all the way to Maine. So that was 2,200 miles. I did that with my mom and three other brothers. So we went out there and did the AT, and while on the AT, people were like, "Man, you guys could triple crown." And so the triple crown is known as the Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, which runs from Mexico to Canada, and then the Continental Divide Trail, which runs from Mexico to Canada. So in 2021, we did the Appalachian Trail, Georgia to Maine, 2,200 miles. Then in 2022, we did the Pacific Crest Trail, which is 2,650 miles from Mexico to Canada along the West Coast, so California, Oregon, Washington. And then we did the Continental Divide Trail in 2023, which is starting on the New Mexico border, going up the Continental Divide all the way until Montana, all the way to Montana, which is the Canadian border up there.
And how many miles is that last one?
Uh, it's technically not finished yet, so people make it, they do all kinds of alternates and stuff. For us, it was probably around 2,500 miles.
Yeah, so 7,500 miles of through hiking with your family, roughly.
Yeah, well, we also did the Arizona Trail. We've done the Arizona Trail like 1.5 times now. So
Right.
that's 800 miles. So,
Sure.
yeah,
So between those things and some smaller efforts that don't make this list, you're over 10,000 miles of through hiking with your family.
right. Yep.
What an incredible thing to do. Tell us a little bit about your life, Brody, and what allows you to spend so much time outside and what that means to you.
Yeah. So I'm homeschooled. So most of my work is online. So I do lots of like VLAX classes, a lot of stuff that the public schools would use, but I'm able to do it from home. And then certain stuff my mom can teach me. And so that just frees up a lot of time for me to be able to go hiking, running, and then it allows me to speed up my work. So I can do all my work from September to April. And then usually I'm able to leave in April and go for we go for like these long through hikes, or we would be able to go in this case, we would go out to Arizona and race at Cocodona. And so that has just allowed me to see lots of the country, and giving me experiences that most people won't ever have.
What an incredible story. I really appreciate your openness and sharing that part of your life with us. Thank you very much, Brody.
Yeah,
I have questions about racing because that's where my heart lives. I'm a trail runner and I'm an ultra runner, and I've gotten really comfortable in the 100-kilometer race sort
yeah,
of set. And so 100K in the mountains is where I feel at home. The idea of 100 miles is scary to me. The idea of 250 miles, even for somebody, like myself who has a fair bit of experience running big mountain races, is just mind blowing. You went from Eldon, which is less than a 50 miler,
yeah,
to a 250-mile starting line with the confidence. We should give him a shout out. I listened to the Distance to Empty podcast with you. I thought those guys had a great conversation with you.
yeah.
Um, and you did have a very ambitious goal at that starting line. And I don't want to speak for you, but are you comfortable sharing what what that goal was? Because for the rest of us mere mortals, just the idea of finishing a 250 miler as your first big effort is insane. I mean, like beautifully crazy.
Yeah.
But you didn't want to just finish, did you?
No, I going into it, my crazy goal was to try to get the course record or get as close to it. So that was 69 hours set by Mike McKnight in 2023. And I just wanted to see how close to that I could get, if I could possibly get that. And then other than that goal, I had kind of looked at like the 72-hour mark and then the 75-hour mark. And so I ended up getting 75 hours and like I feel like it was like 40 minutes or 50 minutes, something like that. So I was a little off the course record time that I had hoped for, but I still finished in a strong time. So I'm happy with it.
I mean, an incredibly strong time. 75 hours is really, I mean, for most of us, it would be out of reach no matter what experience level we had. But for that to be your first effort at any big distance running, and I don't want to downplay the value and the difficulty of these big through hikes. Like people that haven't done that kind of work, like you're covering 50K a day lots of times in those hikes. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were most days in like on the PCT towards the second half, we were shooting for between 40 and 50 miles a day.
Right.
So that's really what gave me the confidence to do something like this kind of a race, is knowing that I've put in these 40 to 50 mile days for 20, 30 days in a row with a 20, 30 pound backpack on. And so
Right.
I was fairly confident, like I knew I could cover the distance. And then I was just wondering how fast could I actually do it.
Right. But tell me about your sleep strategy and fueling strategy going in. So before the race began, I know you and your family have done a lot of prep to get ready for this event. What did you intend to do about sleep? What did you intend to do about fuel?
So this was my first real ultra, like big ultra race. And so I had no idea I didn't know how my body was going to react to sleep. And then nutrition, I had only known about through hiking really. And then through hiking, you just eat whatever you can get your hands on. And so it's oftentimes just junk food and candy and everything. And so I kind of took that same kind of strategy, just whatever I could get my hands on, just eat it. And so I didn't really go into it with supplements and all kinds of other stuff that I was planning to take at certain hours of the race. I kind of just created little baggies for each aid station where I would see my crew, and they would give me that baggie with food in it. So oftentimes I would have some sort of candy. I would have some sort of like protein bar. I would have some sort of like heavy carbs thing. So I ate a good amount of honey buns, which is one of my favorites for through hiking. Just give me a lot of sugar, lots of carbs, lots of just all that kind of stuff. Give me a good boost. And so I kind of just went like that. I went off of that, made my baggies for each aid station, got to the aid station, emptied the baggie that I had for that leg into my vest, and then I would go. And then for sleep, I had no idea what I was doing. I kind of figured I had figured at mile like 80, which for me was like hour 20, 21. I was thinking I was gonna sleep there. So and then I also had thought that I was gonna try to sleep at mile like 130 and then maybe mile 200. So I was thinking for like three sleep legs. Then I was thinking I was gonna try to do between 20 and like 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how I felt. So I ended up getting to mile 80, and I tried to sleep, couldn't fall asleep, which I was kind of shocked because going into there, I was kind of stumbling, tripping a little bit. I was like, man, I can't wait to sleep. I laid down, just couldn't sleep. But it was a good little reset. I gave myself like 20 minutes, kind of just laid there, closed my eyes, let myself reset. And then I kept going. And then I ended up actually sleeping at mile 100. I got to mile 100 and I slept for 20 minutes, which wasn't just not where I planned to, just felt like I needed to. So I got there, slept, woke up feeling actually pretty refreshed. I was ready to go, excited. So I kept hiking. I got to mile 135, I think. I think it was 135. I slept again for 20 minutes, woke up feeling really refreshed, looked at the tracker, saw who was around me, saw the competition, took off, went out of there fast, kind of shocked my body a little bit. And I ended up making it another I feel like it was another like 50 miles. Took another 20-minute nap at mile like 180, 180-ish. And I left there feeling a little bit groggy. It was kind of the middle of the day. It was hot. I had slept for an hour over the course of 50 hours, I think it was, or something, 60 hours maybe it was at that point. And I was I was feeling it. I was feeling the sleep deprivation. I hadn't hallucinated at this point, but I kept hiking, definitely at a slower pace just because of the wear and tear that had happened over the course of 2 to 3 days already. And I kept going into the night at that point, made it to mile 110. Was like, I was so wrecked. I was like, told my crew, I was like, give me 30 minutes. They were like, okay, we'll give you 30 minutes. They, I went down, slept, they woke me up in 15 minutes and told me it was 30 and was like, get out of here. You got 40, 50 miles to go. Get out of here. You got to make up some ground. I was in 17th place at this point. They were like, we could get you into the top 15. We could see let's see how fast you can get this done. Woke me up after 15 minutes, told me it was 30, kicked me out the door, and then my pacers really worked me for the last 40 miles, up and over Eldon down to the finish line. And so going into it, I had no idea what I was gonna do. I
Yeah.
had no real plan. I had kind of picked spots where I thought I was gonna need to sleep, but I had no clue. So I took those 20-minute naps. I took 4 20-minute naps. And so I got about an hour and a half of sleep over the course of 75 hours. And it seemed to work pretty well for me.
Now, Brody, there's a piece of this that I've been thinking about since race day for me. Okay.
Yeah.
17, and that's an important part of this conversation, but it certainly isn't the most important part. The most important part is that you're a person that ran a 250-mile race against some of the finest runners in history and placed 12th. That's the part of the story I find most exciting.
Yeah.
But there's this moment that you've talked about in the past, and you just shared it with us, where you said you needed a 30-minute nap. Your crew woke you up after 15 minutes.
Right.
Now, now there's this thought in the world about what we do with our kids, and you're not a kid. I want to be like, that's not my point here.
Yeah.
My point is, oh, hey,
Oh, hey,
who's that?
Night.
what's up?
Hey.
Sorry, one of the finest endurance runners in history has decided just to pop on the call. Hey, Mike, nice to see
Hey,
you.
good to see you too. Sorry if I'm late.
No, man, I appreciate you taking the time. Brody, I know that Mike was one of the reasons you ran Cocodona, and I thought it would be nice if you two could chat for a minute and tell a story about the moment that you passed one of the finest endurance athletes to ever live and the then current course record holder at 17 years old on the way to your first big finish line.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, first, hey Mike. Thanks for coming on, dude.
Yeah, of course, Brody. Good to see you.
So I mean, it started last year watching you race, watching you get the course record and coming back from however far back you were, coming back, storming back and getting the course record, which was very inspiring. It kind of just got me all amped up and excited to see what I could do. And then this year, coming into it, I obviously had this very aggressive goal to see how close to your time I could get. And so when I was racing, I mean, from the start, I kind of was just trying to see where you were at, keeping an eye on where you were on the tracker. And so I was going, and somehow, some way, I ended up catching up to you at mile like 25. And I looked at my watch, saw how fast I was going. I was like, man, I don't know if this is a great idea. Never done this before, and I'm right next to McKnight. Um, and so I kind of just winged it, went with it for 100 and 200 miles. And then at some point, you kind of got ahead of me for a little bit. And then at Fort Tuthill, I came in right. Yeah, I think you were taking a little bit of a break with your crew. I came in, went down for a nap. You left and got like 3-4 miles out from Fort Tuthill. I told my crew I wanted a 30-minute nap, and they said, perfect, we'll give you 15, but tell you it was 30. They woke me up and it was like, hey, you're in 17th place. You've got 3 people right ahead of you. McKnight is only 4 miles ahead of you. I think we can push and try to see if we can catch him. I was like, yeah, let's go. This would be awesome. And so my pacers really worked me. We were on the tracker the whole time watching it. And I was doing like 10-minute miles for I was doing 10-minute miles for like an hour. And then we were watching the tracker, we were getting closer and closer and closer. And I was kind of like, wow, this is insane. I'm racing the best 200 runner ever. And I looked at the tracker, saw that you were like 0.3 ahead of me, could kind of start to see your headlamp bobbing. And I was starting to pick up the pace, getting a little bit too ahead of myself, dropping down to like a 9-minute mile. My pacer was like, okay, let's settle down. We still got 30 miles to go. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And so we finally started to saw your headlamp. We were getting closer and closer. And finally we kind of closed the gap. And as we passed you, I was like, man, this is unreal that this is happening. And I think we passed you, and my pacer was kind of like, hey, Mike. And I was like, I couldn't even speak. Well, I was out of breath, but I was out of breath, but I was like, man, this is unreal. And you were kind of like, who is it? And my pacer was like, it's Brody. And I was like, this is just like, this just never happens. This is something you can only dream about. And so we finally caught you. We passed you. You started running. I got a little nervous. I was like, oh boy, he's racing me now. He's running. And but I was able to run pretty fast for the next 30 miles. Kind of keep checking the tracker, trying to put a little bit of distance just in case you really found it and came back, caught me. I was like, this is just insane. It was a pretty special moment for me, and definitely one that I'm gonna cherish for forever.
That's
You know,
awesome.
Mike, it is important to note that you truly are the finest long distance endurance athlete alive, and you've proven that time and time again with course records on the toughest races in the world, over 200 miles. You had a rough day out at Cocodona, and so it's really generous of you to come on. In some ways it's easy for Brody to come on and tell us about his 12th place because it's such a huge accomplishment. You didn't have your finest day of racing that day, and so it's even more generous of you to come on and share this moment with us, Mike. And so thank you for being thoughtful and doing that. Can you tell us a little bit, first of all, how you feel about 17-year-old Brody crushing things, framed in the context of what I'm calling the future of trail running? We're doing this little mini series here on the channel. And secondly, do you remember that moment when Brody passed you and how you felt about it now, or how you feel about it now, knowing that you were the inspiration behind why he got to the starting line to begin with?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, first of all, Brody, you're a solid athlete and have a huge future ahead of you. Um, and I just want you to know, like, I'm sure you know this over the past couple of weeks, but you're inspiring a lot of people, more people than you realize. Just to give you an example, I, in my church, I was asked to speak to a youth group after Cocodona, and I spent a lot of it talking about you actually, because the group that I was speaking to were all your age. And like I started my presentation talking about some of the things I've done, and all of them were just like, well, that's unbelievable. I don't know how I could ever do that. And I made sure to bring up, well, there's actually a kid your age that just did it and he crushed it. So just know that you inspired those. There's about 6 to 8, 16 to 17-year-olds there. So kudos to you for inspiring people that you're not even aware of.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah, I do remember that moment. So, I mean, yeah, it was a low moment. Like the reason I was at Fort Tuttle for so long was I had hypothermic issues. And so the medic made me stay there and warm up and stuff. And so, but when I left, I was walking, I was miserable. I saw a headlight coming behind me and my pacer tried using that to motivate me. And I didn't care. I was just like, I just want to walk. And then when you passed me, I, I think I told you this at the finish line, Brody, but when I am in a race, like if someone's coming up behind me, it doesn't motivate me. But when they pass me, I try matching their speed as like a way to like hopefully like kick things into gear again. And so yeah, that's why I did start running, because I was like, okay, I'm going to try matching Brody's pace. Like we've ran the same distance. If he can do it, I can do it. So I started doing that pace, and I don't even know if I made it a minute before I stopped. So you were truly blazing. I'm not surprised that you were doing 9-minute miles when you passed me. And what was your final time again, by the way?
It was 75 hours, and I'm not exactly sure. I think it was like 50 minutes.
Okay. So,
So,
I mean, in those final 30-ish miles, dude, you put on 3 hours on me. Like you were
yeah.
hauling those final 30 miles. That's awesome. But yeah, it was way inspiring. When I was 17, I was on track at my high school, but I was complaining about it. I hated it. It was miserable. I couldn't imagine running 250 miles at age 17. So it's just truly amazing what you're doing. But I would say the biggest thing that I think is inspiring about you, Brody, and this is just more about your whole family, is like just how we met you. Me and Ben Light met you a year ago. Like you finished the Arizona Trail as a family, a trail that I've tried to finish twice now and I haven't been able to finish. And like, what was it again? You finished it how many days before we met you guys at the finish?
It was only like a week, like 5 days maybe.
Yeah. 5 days after you guys hop into your first ultra, like you find out you're doing it the night before that you're gonna do it.
Yep.
And didn't you get on the podium too that year?
I got fifth place.
Fifth place, yeah. Like your first ultra, 5 days after finishing an 800-mile trail, and you got fifth place. So, I mean, this was inspiring what you just did at Cocodona, but I'd almost say, I mean, at a minimum, last year was just as inspiring, if not more inspiring, in my opinion. So between last year and this year, dude, you're gonna rock it in the future of ultra running. I'm stoked for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of
I,
course.
it's an honor to speak to you. First of all, I followed your career for a long time, and I'm a big fan, and it's not a thing I ever say. And so just know that once again, I appreciate you taking the time to come chat with us today and share your perspective of that moment. And now there's a new course record at Cocodona for you to go out there and crush next year when you're ready to do it. I mean,
Are you talking to Brody right now?
oh man, I'm talking to you right now.
Oh, you should be talking to Brody.
Brother, between you and Bronco, I felt like there was a potential for a monster time this year, and then of course Bronco put on a show for 200 miles, more than that before he found his wall that day. And so just know that man, it's inspiring to all of us in the ultra world. I've never gone 200 miles. I don't know that I ever will. I'm a 100K kind of mountain runner. And watching you run has always been inspiring to me. So taking the time to chat with myself and Brody today is a real honor. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Is it okay if I say one more quick thing?
Yeah.
So I don't know if Brody knows this or not, but has your mom been talking to you, Brody?
Yeah,
Oh, so you know?
yeah, I do.
Oh, I was hoping it was going to be a surprise, but never mind then.
No,
Surprise to the rest of us.
I'm excited though.
So I'm working on working out with my finances and stuff. I'm trying to make it so I can fly out Brody and his brother to Bigfoot to pay some crewmate Bigfoot. So hopefully we'll be able to
Whoa,
share some miles out there.
Yeah.
that's incredible. Oh my
Yeah.
God. How fun. Mike,
Yeah.
so cool. Gosh. And then, I mean, listen, you get a few miles in on Bigfoot and a few lessons from the master. Who knows, maybe Bigfoot's on your agenda next year, Brody.
Are you doing the Grand Slam next year? I've stalked your ultra sign up.
Yeah, I'm signed up for it.
Yeah, he's doing all 4 next year.
No way.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Okay, well, listen, that was my last question, Brody, which was what's next for you. Mike, stick around. Let's share this together. That's huge.
Yeah.
So all 4. So tell everybody what that means.
Oh, I don't know. I'm like, it feels unreal. I'm just so blessed to have this opportunity. Um, Cocodona was just like a huge like I don't know. It was just it hooked me. I'm completely hooked. And I knew I was gonna be. I'm like I just love this kind of stuff. I just love these long endurance efforts. And so when I signed up for Cocodona uh, for this year, I was excited and I had known about these other races, but I was really just focused on Cocodona. And then after Cocodona this year, I kind of looked and I was like, huh, there's these other races. There's these 3 big other races that look really cool and I would love to do them. And and so I talked to my parents, talked to my brothers, was like, hey, what do you think? I feel like I feel like I can do it. I think I can do well. Love to see what I can do. What do you guys think? And they were like, yeah, we support you, man. Let's do this. And so they were we so I signed up, and so it's official. I'm gonna do it. So
So
I'm
it's
just
Moab, Cocodona, Bigfoot. What's the 4th? Remind me.
Tahoe.
Tahoe.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just gotta stay focused, gotta dial in training, figure out my nutrition, figure out sleep, figure out everything because I've only done this once. And then I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited for it.
Well, we'll all be watching, Brody. Both of you, thank you for taking the time to have this conversation today. When we think, so I mean, everybody knows 200s are the new 100 miler, right? And so those of us punters who are still sort of thinking of that 100-mile distance as being the be all and end all and the toughest there is, we all have this rude awakening when we see you two and the other athletes that are at those finish lines that are running such long distances in such incredible times and are less busted up at those finish lines than we are at our mere mortal ultra marathon levels.
Wow.
But I do believe, and I think it's evident by the signups and the new races that are showing up all over North America, that these 200-mile plus distances are a big piece of the future of trail running. And Brody, yourself and the people that you inspire at your age group are going to be the future. It won't be that long, and you'll be on a call inspiring other people that were inspired by you to get to starting lines. And I think that circle is beautiful for us to be able to watch from the beginning. Fellas, I hope you have a great time running together and pacing. Mike, I hope Bigfoot is an absolute success for you, and I'll be watching from my computer screen here in Eastern Canada. Fellas, thank you both for taking the time. Much love.
Of course. Good to see you, Brody.
Nice to see you, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.